favorites. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm back with another favorites video, and today I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite books that I read in the month of October. And these are the books that I was left with a great impression about, or feeling like super pumped to read it, and then when I read it I really enjoyed it so much and wanted so much more. And these are the books that, well, recently in the last month I wanted to go for something that was in the fall feel, very dark fantasy, or just pretty much something that will make me think of Halloween a little bit. But at the same time, I did add something in that was kind of a little different. So yeah, so getting started on my list of favorites, I'm gonna be talking about Shadow and Bone by Lev Bardugo. And I originally read Six of Crows before I read this one, so you were I heard that the Grisha trilogy was where you should begin, but I kind of skipped it and then now I went backwards. And I gotta say, this one was really exciting to me. I really enjoyed it. And if you haven't read it yet, it's about this girl named Alina who pretty much is in love with a friend, has a big, huge crush, and they're kind of a military, who's part of the country of Ravka. And they are pretty much, the whole country's at war with many other countries. And so these two characters, they go to war. And then suddenly, when her friend was getting attacked, she saves his life, and accidentally it reveals this big, huge power. And then this actually gets the interest of who's known as the Darkling, who's pretty much part of the Grisha, which is kind of they're witches, people with special abilities. I mean, kind of elemental abilities type of thing. And so they take her in, and so she has to go to this lives in the palace, learn how to use her powers, and she has to discover this whole huge power within her in order to save the world. Pretty much like that, kind of like her own country, and also a way to destroy this big huge force called the Fold. And it's kind of dark and it's crazy, and there's crazy creepy creatures that is out there. And I really enjoyed this book, and I really liked Lena, who's the main character in this one, and I really found her very intriguing. I like how she's bold, impulsive sometimes. She says what's on her mind, and she's very funny sometimes. But I also like the fact that year two, she's not the most strongest character. She didn't let that stop her. She just kept on going. So if you like one of those underdog stories where you get a character who's pretty much not the strongest, more like a scrawny character that pretty much can't fight or anything, but then learns to overcome her fears eventually throughout the book, it's kind of like that. So yes. So, pretty much the next book that I'm going to be talking about is called The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding by Alexandra Bracken. And this is a book that I really enjoyed, and it was dark, spooky, and also had really intriguing characters that I fell in love with, and I really liked each character, especially the main character, whose name is known as Prosper. And he's pretty much the underdog story kind of thing, and he's kind of the outsider of his family who comes from a big, huge, rich, well-known family that has a big, huge reputation of being successful. And then later, find out that his family wants to kill him, and he goes on a run and he gets saved by his long-lost uncle, who tells him that the reason why people want to kill him is because he has a demon living inside him. He also wants to destroy his family, so because of his long-lost relative who broke a pact with the demon. And you're not supposed to break a pact with a demon, so or else things happen. And I really enjoyed this one. I think it's way different than what was expected, because at first I thought this book would be more dark, creepy, in a way of exorcism type of feel. But then when I read it, I got more of a Lemony Snicket's-ish, Tim Burton-ish, Hocus Pocus type of feel. So it's more in that kind of way, and with some funny moments, and even the demon is very funny. So this is a good book that you haven't checked it out yet. So this could be on your Halloween shelf. So, And lastly, the other book that was really exciting to me, and this is a book that I read because of a book festival attending last month. It was called the Fall for Book Festival, which was at Fairfax and George Mason. So if you haven't read it, been there or anything, it's really fun. And it's usually a week-long one, and there's a lot of authors, they talk, and so on. And if you're ever in Virginia, do stop by there. It's really fascinating to go. And one of the books that I read for the festival because the author was going to be there was The Magicians. And it's also been on my reading list for so long, but then when I found out the author was going to be there, I was like, I must read this so that way I can get it signed. Which I didn't get signed and I accidentally bought the wrong book. So, anyway, long story. But anyway, I really enjoyed this book. There was like magic in there. I like The Magicians. And if you like stories with a fantasy college school type of vibe, but then also a vibe where a character goes into another world through like a visible portal or doorway or just happens to go into another world, and it's really interesting. I mean, it's also been compared to like Harry Potter and Chronicles of Narnia, but it's way totally different from that. It's pretty much like its own thing. It's pretty much its own story. There is no comparison or anything except a few things, elements that like the college part. But I like the characters, and they have the whole angsty characters thing. So if you're looking for teenage angst, but it's pretty much like college students. So which is kind of cool. So it's like kind of like a little bit new adult ish, and it's more like science based magic, and then just like you worry about consequences and so on, and it's just pretty much so much fun. So I really enjoy this one, and I actually really love the writing. So I can't wait to see it. And I'm not sure if I'm going to watch the show yet. I want to read the whole trilogy just because for spoilers or anything. I don't want to be spoiled or anything that happens in the show. So that is pretty much all the books I read that I really loved. I mean, I read some other books, but these three are kind of like my huge favorites. The Magicians, uh, Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding, and Shadow and Bone. So, yeah. And let me know in the comments below if you read any of these books, what you thought about them, and let me know what some of your favorite books of October was, because I'd love to hear about that. So, and if you like this favorites video, let me know in the comments below, and like this video. And if you want to get in touch with me at all, like questions or ideas on the show, or maybe you want a book request or something like that, or need a recommendation, I'm also on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, pretty much all over the place. And so do subscribe if you don't want to miss anything else. And until next time, keep on reading.